So I'm here to talk about the ceremonial office protocol inside the governor's office. I want to remind all the tour guides that the ceremonial office is toured at the tour guide's discretion. What does that mean? Well, it means that if your group is not behaving too loud, not following directions, you can instruct them to look in as they walk by the governor's office and to understand that visiting the space is a privilege. Let them know that once you're inside the governor's office, that to hold any questions that they may have until we exit the governor's office. Let them know that they must remain quiet in the space as it is an office for the governor and staff. When you enter the governor's or the ceremonial office, you're going to ask two people or two types of people if it's okay to go into the ceremonial office. You may ask a dignitary protection unit. This is a person that protects dignitaries such as the governor. You'll see them wearing a white lapel pin, or the person who's actually attending the reception desk may give you permission. So how do we do this? You can say, "Hi, I have a class from Gupser Elementary here today, and may I take them into the governor's office?" If you're given the okay, then you'll go through the rope and spend time in the governor's office. We need to stay on script, and some of you may or may not know that students may ask all types of questions. One of the first is, what's behind the doors? And you can just tell them, these are just offices, just like the rest of the building. You may get a question even from a parent, where's the governor? And we just have to answer, I don't know the governor's timetable or schedule today. And lastly, your group should be in this space in the governor's office for about 10 minutes, no more than that. So when you utilize the script about the office, you may have everything done in 10 minutes, but try not to go over that amount of time. That it's hard to cover everything, and that's okay. All right, I'm standing outside the governor's office. And as we mentioned before, that it is your discretion as a tour guide of whether or not you want to bring a group in, depending on their behavior. So please understand that. If it's an unruly group, you can just walk on by and say, take a look. So we're going to go inside the governor's office. So we're in the outer office right now, and I just want to mention a couple things that we point out as tour guides when we're in this part of the building. First of all, we have the table here, which was a gift by the architectural firm who won the competition to design the new Capitol. It's fascinating because there are over 2,000 pieces of wood inlay in this table. It's surrounded on the outside by our state bird, which is the western meadowlark, and our state flower, which is the Oregon grape. So it's a beautiful piece of architecture here. We also point out to the students that over here, we have a state flag of Oregon that went to the moon in to the moon and back in 1969. Every state flag was put on board the space capsule and then returned to the United States, and these were gifts by President Nixon to the state governors, which is why we have it on display. And interestingly enough, there are a couple pieces of moon rock and a piece of resin at the top. So please, let the kids go by and not to stand around, but maybe to form a nice single file line as they go by, past, and not to spend a lot of time there. We also have, and not here today, but on the walls of the governor's office, we have art exhibits. And these art exhibits last about 8 to 10 weeks, and they feature Oregon artists that are picked by or chosen by the Oregon Arts Commission. So again, you can just explain that to the students. There usually will be on the table over here, which we saw before, a brochure or like a postcard talking about the artist and his or her work. So again, depending on the age group and the level of experience, you may want to talk about the art or maybe leave that for a different group. So let's go on into the governor's office. So part of the new protocol is that when you are in here with your group, you need to ask permission because it is a privilege to be going into the governor's inner office or ceremonial office. There will be someone at the desk here that you can ask, Or we hope to have what we call the DPUs, Dignitary Protection Unit. These will be men or women standing out here, usually identified by a white lapel pin, and they can also give you permission as well to enter the ceremonial office. You need to identify yourself as something like, I'm from Gubser Elementary School, or I'm the tour guide leading Gubser Elementary, and do we have permission to go into the office?
Dear, just say yes.
Yes.
Movie star, there we go. So once you're Once you're given permission to go in, open that barrier here. Now, depending on your comfort level, and sometimes the age of the kids, elementary students are used to sitting for story time or whatever. So a lot of tour guides like to have the students sit on the carpet, cross their legs, and it just has kind of, for me anyway, a calming effect, just having the kids in a seated position. Parents or chaperones are more than welcome to sit at the table or stand in the back if they wish. So once you're in the governor's ceremonial office, one of the things to point out first is that history is alive in this particular room. One of the things we point out are all the pictures of governors, beginning with our first all the way down here to our current governor, Kate Brown. There are two people, though, that are not governors. We have their pictures. We explained down in the rotunda, Dr. John McLaughlin. You probably have heard, or maybe have not heard, that we call him the father of Oregon for some of the things that he did for the early pioneers coming to the Oregon country. Then we have the mother of Oregon, Tabitha Moffett Brown. She was an early pioneer in helping orphans and also women. Anyway, this is Tabitha Moffett Brown, who we call the mother of Oregon. She was very instrumental in working with women and also orphan children. And some of the schools that she started, one of them eventually became Pacific University in Forest Grove. Something you could point out as well.